Welcome back to Ty and That Guy. My name is Wes Chatham, and this is my dear friend, sometimes lover, Ty Franck. Say hello, Ty.
Hello, Ty.
Today we're going to be talking about Season 5, Episode 6, but we have a very special guest who's here to hang out with us, Ty.
Yeah, we're very excited. I didn't think we were going to be able to get him, but Wilex Ly is going to hang with us today to talk about getting to make out with drummer and being part of the polycule, the polyamorous polycule. And
polycule, that's a new one.
And what it feels like to get kicked out of an airlock into space.
Yeah. Hey, Wilex.
Let's go. Hi.
How you doing, buddy?
Great. Glad to be here.
How's life up north of the wall in Toronto?
Oh, man. It's been a really crazy couple of years. You know, lots of things have changed.
What?
You know?
What's happened in the past couple of years?
Well, yeah. But yeah, no, it's been very, very interesting, you know, with the pandemic and everything, but it's been going really, really well. I've, been busy doing a couple of projects here and there, you know, switched agencies and whatnot. So yeah, it's been a trip so far. It's been a long time since I've seen you.
Can I ask you kind of a personal question? Because I think our listeners will find this interesting. Did you have to let your old agents go?
It was kind of I think it's a mutual thing. Yes, they were working really well for me in the past, but you know, we just had we didn't agree on certain things. So then we just they're fantastic agency for.
Yeah, you don't have to say their names or anything, but is that process? Do you find that process hard when you know that conversation hard?
The conversation is definitely hard because it's kind of like, you know, when you're you know, you've been partners for a while, and sometimes, you know, it's kind of like a breakup.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh my God, it's very much.
It's like a breakup. Yeah, because like you got to say, hey, listen, I don't think this is going to work out anymore. It's not you, it's me.
Yeah.
You know, like so. But yeah, they were they're a fantastic agency. It's just that you know, I think that we just differences in where in our projection.
Ty, have you ever had to fire anybody?
Yeah, I mean, I came up through the corporate world. I was an executive. I've fired dozens, if not hundreds, of people.
And do you have a hard time with it? Let me guess. Let me take a wild guess and say it is no problem to you to fire somebody.
No, I mean, okay. So let me put on the actual human mask for a second.
Okay.
I don't like firing people when it's not their fault. When, like, you know, if the company shuts down a warehouse somewhere and there's 30 people that work at that warehouse and you got to let them all know, hey, your job doesn't exist anymore. That sucks. Because, you know, they were good. They were hard workers. You like them. We'd prefer to keep them on. It's just, you know, the dictates of the business. If somebody's fucked up, especially fucked up in a way where it was clear that they were dishonest about it and I can't trust them anymore, I actually enjoy firing those people.
Was it similar to when you try to get me fired on season 2, season 3, season 4?
Well, I kept going to the studio and saying, he's just a liar. And they were like, no, he's an actor. That's what they're paid to do. So they wouldn't let me get rid of you.
Okay. All right, cool. Wilex, are you born and raised in Toronto?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Toronto. Funny enough, I moved to Scarborough halfway through it, and then now I'm literally back right next to where my mom used to do her checkups. I live right next to the place where I was born.
Oh, wow. Used to do her checkups. What do you mean? Like checkups on you?
Like she was pregnant.
Are you serious?
Yeah, when I was still... Yeah, so I'm like, I'm right by this area, and she's like, oh, that's funny. That's where I used to do, you know, the checkup. And I'm like, really? Live like next door, basically. You know,
that's nice. They already have your medical records. You could just go over there for a doctor's visit.
Yeah, you know. But yeah, so then I moved to Scarborough, and that's where really acting started to, you know.
How did you first get bit by the bug? Yeah. How old were you?
How did I first get bit by the bug? Well, I think because my high school Sorry, I'm just going to do this so I can
Yeah.
actually hear.
No, you're not
what I'm
allowed.
saying.
You're not allowed. Please don't do that. It messes up the sim. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
When I was in high school, the one that I went to didn't have a lot of didn't have like a solid dramatic arts. Well, they had a solid dramatic arts program. They just didn't have a lot of resources. And so when I got there, I kind of like saw, like plays and what that were created by the school, and I was like, wow, this is kind of maybe something that I wanted to do. And at the time, I was listening to a show. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it, Avenue Q, and it's like this adult Muppets show, and it was on Broadway for a while. I started really getting into like puppetry and whatnot. And I started messaging the people who made the puppets there as a little high school student, because there was it's not like nowadays where you can search everything up on YouTube, like how to make a puppet. Like back then it was like, it was the Wild West, So I messaged them and they got back to me, and I just started creating puppets and then acting. And then by the time we got into grade 12, I did Little Shop of Horrors, and, we built the puppets.
Oh, wow.
And, did the show and whatever. So yeah. So it all kind of.
Do you sing as well?
Really, really weird. Yeah, I'd like to say that I'm an actor who can carry it too.
Yeah. Right.
Right. So it was, and then from then on, I just went to college down in Windsor, which is next to Detroit, and it just took off from there.
Just a quick question about the Little Shop of Horrors. I was a big fan of the movie, the Rick Moranis, Steve Martin. Yeah. So did you actually build, or did you help build the plant?
Yes, it was. It's a funny story because, like, I was a bit of a slacker in high school, I want to say. But ironically enough, I felt like I was in the school the longest in terms of when we were building that puppet. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this because I don't want to get my old teacher in trouble. But we were at the school till about like 4 a.m. in the morning. Wow. Building this giant, massive Audrey 2, and it was a blast. It was like crazy because you know how like the show goes, like it was a tiny little plant and then it turns into this, 7 foot.
So what you're saying is you were a product of child labor. Do you have your teacher's name?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We'll have to call it the school board. So yeah, and then from then on, I went to music theater because it was a fantastic little program that we had down in Windsor, and we did tons of great shows like Spring Awakening, Drowsy Chaperone, Jesus Christ Superstar, and then after that, I went on to be a theater actor for a while. And actually, funny enough, The Expanse was the first time that I was like, I'm going to start dabbling into television now. And what a fantastic opportunity that was.
How did you first hear about The Expanse?
Crap. I've heard about it a lot. I've auditioned for it a couple of times. And finally, when the role for Serge kind of popped up and I auditioned for it, I was like, it was just amazing, I heard from a bunch of friends, like so many of my friends who are in The Expanse, my teachers, 2 of my teachers were in The Expanse. So as I was, watching to do research for the show and whatnot, I just kept seeing people who I knew who were in the series. So it was
Your teacher was on the show?
Surreal experience. 2 of my teachers.
Who were they?
Liza Balkin.
Oh yeah.
Who was working under she was one of those like some, I forget the what you would call them. She was kind of like a homeless person who was living under like this bridge. And then there was Roger Schenk, who was this cable guy. He was like carrying a bunch of cables, and then you guys aimed your guns at him, and he was just kind of like,
I remember.
So he was there. Yeah. And Patty Kim, who was part of season 4, we met almost exactly a year before I booked The Expanse. And we were doing this thing called Asians in the Six. We were creating a 48-hour film. And she was a part of it. She was there, right? And then it almost kind of like the stars aligned, when that audition came. Because I was like, I met her like a year ago, and we worked here and there, together throughout the year. And then when the time came, the audition came, and they were like, you're auditioning for a belter. And I was like, I'm going to ask Patty for yeah, for some dialect, coaching and whatnot. And so she graciously, sent me like some of her, like what she would say and whatnot. So I was just practicing as much as I could, with the resources that I had. And then when I went in, I saw Ty, I saw Breck. I'm not sure who was there. There was one other person in the room. I'm not sure if it was Daniel.
No. The third person there was the casting agent.
Casting, yes.
Yeah, it was just me and Breck and the casting agent. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, and it was a blast.
Well, we did like working with Patty. She was great.
Yeah, I had such a good time with her. Yeah. How is she? I haven't spoken to her in a while.
Patty's out in Vancouver.
Yeah.
So she's out west.
So she would, so she would fly. I remember because she would fly in, and then she would get like her, because she was working too, another job. And so she would get like, she would have to coordinate with that and then fly in and she was such a hard worker.
Oh, absolutely.
And so great in the part. Yeah.
Champ. Oh, yeah, absolutely phenomenal. Like, those are the people, like, kind of people who are like, hanging around because then I go like, oh, you gotta step up your own game.
Yeah.
I have noticed that Canada, working up there, has a fantastic core of Indigenous actors, like Indigenous Canadian people who are Indigenous to that area. So many great actors come out of that area in a way that a lot of other areas of our continent and other countries don't really have quite so much of a representation of their Indigenous populations in their acting groups.
Yeah,
Canada, for some reason,
so many more to be seen.
Is it? Do you think it's because the government encourages arts within all different communities and diverse communities?
I think so. We do have because it's still, I'm relatively new to the film industry, but in terms of the theater industry, I think that a lot of theater companies are really pushing for diversity. It's definitely great because I think we're at a point in our history where we need to kind of like have equity, to cater to equity before we can, get to a place where it's an even playing ground, right? Because I think that I actually started a theater company and I was thinking, why don't we just do like neutral casting? It makes the most sense, right? Go for the end game, clueless me, not realizing what these people were trying to do. And then one of my friends was like, if you do that, then the people, if you're just basing it on audition and your resume, right? Then what happens is that, of course, people who have already had experience have a lot more practice, have a lot more training and whatnot. So it really made me think of like what we should be doing right now at our current time. So yeah, and I'm really happy that, especially in the last couple of years, that there's been a huge push for diversity. I think. I mean, would you agree that that's happening the same way in the U.S.?
It's certainly happening on the casting side. I think we're starting to see it much more common in the behind the camera stuff too, but not at the same pace. I mean, on the casting side, it happened much more quickly. Right. With more and more like nicely diverse casts being more and more the norm. And so casting agents very quickly got on board with that and expanded their Rolodex to include a lot of people that they wouldn't have had before. That happened pretty fast. I mean, it didn't happen fast for the people who were living under that system. Like it probably felt like it took forever, but from the outside, it looked like it happened fairly quickly. On the behind the camera stuff where we're talking about like directors and producers and that writers, it's definitely happening, but it's slower. It is slower. The reality is that if you're just auditioning for a part that's, a 1-day part or even like a 1 script part, people are more willing to take a chance on you than if you are trying to get the job of directing that episode. And now suddenly, a $5, $6, $7 million budget is in your hands, and you have to run the production.
You have to run the ship.
People are much less likely to just take a flyer on you. So it's much slower, I think, to get enough people through the pipeline of experience and on the job work to the point where people start feeling comfortable giving them like you said, the keys to the ship. It is happening. It is happening though. It's just frustratingly slow.
What I've seen, at least up north here, is that a lot of directors, or like, emerging directors, are shadowing.
Yeah.
A lot of directors, and that's how they get like their experience in that. And I think that that's kind of slowly working its way there, right? Like you're saying, absolutely. I think that there needs to be, more representation behind the screen as well as on camera.
So my question for you as a stage actor is:
yes,
everybody we've ever had on the show who also did theater work in Toronto, knows Kara G. Like, Kara G knows literally everyone in the theater world. Did you work with Kara G in the theater world?
I did not work with Kara. I did, however, hear a lot about Kara, and nothing but nice things, fantastic things to say.
You can tell the truth. You can let it go. Tell the truth.
Yeah.
No.
I'm kidding. No. I'm kidding. Okay. Yeah. She's. We obviously know. Everybody listening.
We have something to tell the audience.
Yeah, everybody knows how. Everybody knows how wonderful she is. So I want to hear something different. I don't want to hear how wonderful she is over and over.
It's really interesting because I think that it was such a great show to kind of kick off my journey, and I can't stop saying this, but it's true. You have a show that's really something else, I think, because everybody there, every single department is so passionate about what they do that they create like their best work there. They really put their best foot forward. Literally the first day when I walked on set, I was nervous, because I'm new, and I was just amazed because the people were so kind and so willing to, guide me in the right direction. And, when I walked onto set, it was like, I felt like I was in space. I'm not sure if you get that sometimes, but it really feels like you're not on Earth anymore. And it makes your job so easy as an actor. All of a sudden, I went from watching the show. I was doing this theater show right before I got casted for this show. I think I got casted pretty late because there was a bit of a conflict at first. And so when I jumped on, I was like, binge watching the show, and it went from one day of like just watching everything on screen into like setting foot onto the Rocinante. It's like what is this? It was a crazy experience.
What were you doing on the Rossi, you dirty belter?
Well, that was our.
What were you doing on that set?
Yeah,
where was
Stay your lane, belter.
Hey, was that your first polyamorous relationship?
You know what I'm really jelly about is that because I had that conflict, I wasn't able to film that scene when everybody was, doing their thing. So I was left out. I in my headcanon is that I was driving the ship at the time, so I was busy while everybody was having sex. Am I allowed to swear here?
Yes.
No,
yes.
Keep your fucking language clean.
Everybody was fucking.
No, but so it wasn't your first polyamorous relationship. Are you avoiding the question?
Sorry, it was my first.
Was it your first polyamorous relationship?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. All right. Yeah. Yes. Ty and I, we are in polyamorous relationships right now as we speak with each other.
Sweet. Yeah. Awesome.
That scene, so the director there shot a lot more of that than we actually asked for, and a lot of it wound up on the cutting room floor. So even if you had been there, you probably wouldn't have got much screen time out of it.
I mean, I think at the time, like, it was a good choice because, like, the rest of the the drummer crew were like chiseled like gods, and I'm sitting here.
Yeah. What's up with that? Like all the dudes on drummer's crew are like chiseled like statues. What the fuck, man?
I was like looking at. I was like, all right, okay. There's Steven, Sammer, and then there's me.
Oh wait, and trust me. Sammer got a following. Oh, go ahead, Wes.
I always think when you see that, you're like, where's the 24-hour fitness on the ship? They have like a nutritionist, a whole like weightlifting program.
And Sammer got a following because I've seen on Twitter that he had quite a few people who were very excited to post pictures of him without his shirt on.
Yeah, I'm a member of that following, by the way.
Oh yeah, I think we all are. Serge is definitely sitting a lot on that ship. He is definitely.
When Drummer talks to Marco for the first time, and Marco has the logic of basically he knew that if he got us involved in a war,
Right.
that the Belters were going to have to bind together if they're going to survive. He kind of put them in that thing. So when she decides to join them, did you feel a little bit like, hey, when they're like, all right, we need one of your crew members, and you give us her, and she's like, all right, send you other things. You feel like, that's a little chopped liver.
Yeah, bargained.
Yeah.
Bargained off.
Yeah. All right, you take that one.
Yeah. You go over there.
Yeah.
It was an ab contest. The guy with the worst abs gets sent away. Like, Serge, you should have done some crunches, buddy. Get over there.
It's like okay, who has the worst abs? And nobody even had to. I'm going. I'm on my way. I think that when I was like thinking about how Serge would have thought about this, I think that it's his best worst option. I think that he's trying to keep everybody as alive as possible, ironically enough. And it just didn't pan out for him the way that he thought it might, because I think that coming from a family, like my parents were born in Vietnam, right? And obviously the war and whatnot. So I was like thinking about like, okay, what's like the most logical way that we can stay, to deal with it so that we can all stay alive, And I think that trusting Marco, because otherwise we would have just been blown up.
Yeah.
Right. If we tried to run away with, like, we would have been all gone.
Yeah.
So I think that it was tragic for Serge, but it was absolutely necessary.
I also think, and I think you played it this way as well. So this is this intention of the script, but it's also how your performance fed into it, is that Serge is sort of sympathetic to the Free Navy. Like he's definitely a Belter who feels like the Belters have been fucked over by the inner planets for hundreds of years.
Sure. Yes.
And now somebody's fighting back. And that's kind of exciting. And I think, I don't think he wanted to leave his family, but the way way your performance played it, he seems kind of excited to go over and be part of the struggle and, be part of the main crew.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's that little secret, right?
Yeah.
It's that little secret of like, I when I was like doing, the scenes with like Vanessa, who's Vecchio, I secretly was like just lit as she was saying her lines, and her character was saying, it just drove me nuts because I was like, "You're ruining this for us,
right?
You're fucking ruining this for us." Shut up. And I haven't told her that, but that was like one of the little secrets as I was, like pushing his own agenda. But I think it's a mix of those two things, right? Like it's due time, He says something about having the Earthers have had their boots on our neck.
Yeah.
Right. And it's kind of like, well, it sucks that we have to do this, but this is what our options are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you're oppressed for a long time, there are probably saints out there who don't feel this way, but for most normal humans, you want to see the other side have to take some shit for a while, right? If you've been oppressed and beat up for so long, when you see the other side, the people who've been oppressing you get a little bit of their own medicine, get a little comeuppance, any normal human feels a little good about that. Like, that's a normal way to feel. So, yeah, I mean, I totally understand it.
I got to say that I'm very glad that Wes is here because watching Amos, because sometimes I feel like an Amos, it's pretty bad, but like, it's like that attitude of like, this shit just needs to get done. And sometimes it means it's like some bad shit's got to happen. But like, it's kind of like satisfying and it's in its own right to when somebody's been bullied or whatnot, however you want to put it, when they've been oppressed and whatnot, to kind of seek a little chaos.
Yeah.
And the thing about Amos is that he acts on what he's crafted as his moral code, or at least that's the way that I see it when I'm watching the show, right? Like, and he kind of just goes for what he believes in, as opposed to like,
Well, he gives the tribe of two speech within this episode. Yeah. And, Amos has a way of just seeing the last step, right? So we have this
Yep.
We have what we have. We have civility, we have civilization, we have this way that we operate, but there's a lot of illusion in that, right? There's a lot of making yourself feel good, making others feel good, you think. But the reality is if shit goes down, if it's the end of the world, you're looking after you and your tribe. You're looking after you and your people. And that tribe is a lot smaller than people really think.
Than you think.
And when your mind clicks into survival mode, you know, you start, when your mind is in that place of survival mode, you look at things completely different, because all the niceties and all the ways that we, you know, all the social lubricant and things that we do to make things go, that's all gone. In some ways, like the great thing of, as an actor or through art and is you get to it really experience these extremes, because you find truth that you can take for yourself. And there's honesty in this episode, and there's honesty in the chaos. There's honesty in the end of days and how humans really, what is really motivating them. And it's always there. It's always motivating, but you start to cover it up with all these layers. And once those layers are stripped away, you can see who people really are.
Yeah, yeah. And in some ways, I find that, you know, like when that happens, you know, when people kind of show their true colors, I think that Amos is in a spot where he's always been honest with what, you know, this is what I'm going to do.
We need an Amos Burton daily devotional. little seeds of truth to get you through the day.
Yeah, it's like, you know. Yeah. And I think that's what it is. I think that, like, you know, because he's been so direct with his intentions, he doesn't beat around the bush. It's a breath of fresh air.
Did you watch a lot of dirty polyamorous movies to help you prepare for the part, like as for it would have been acceptable. It's research. It's
the great thing about it is now you can buy tons of like polyamorous porn, and it's a tax write-off. Yeah, this is a business expense. It's a business expense. I have to prepare.
Let me just...
Wilex is like way ahead of you, buddy. Way ahead of you. So let's talk a little bit about Avasarala's moment. You know, I think that this, for me, and correct me if I'm wrong, is really the most vulnerable that we've seen her up to this point, where Arjun is lost and she doesn't know what's happened to him, and she knows that her daughter and her daughter, and they, in knowing on what they ended on, the fight that they ended on, and seeing that look in her face, and I think, I mean, obviously we've said this so many times, but you can't draw attention to it enough how great Sheree is and how great she is in this character, because the multitudes of, you know, like how dark and hard she can be, and then all being the politician and the charming and conniving, but also having true love for her family and true love for Arjun, her husband and her partner, and seeing the loss within that. We're not used to seeing her that vulnerable.
It was honestly, it was tough to see her. It's like my head, the mighty have fallen. You know, it's like just this moment where you see such a strong character show that vulnerability, you know, that real, like, like somebody who's so sure of herself to somebody who I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, I think that is true, but also this begins her path to becoming what she becomes over the next season and a half. And if you're Marco, you should feel like you fucked up because you just made an enemy you don't want to make. She's very vulnerable. She's very she's very hurt right now. But if you know who and what she is, you know when she rebounds, she's going to be a fucking tiger. You're dead. Yeah. She will hunt you to the ends of the universe. This is that low moment before she straps her claws back on and goes for the throat. And for the next season and a half, it's just all of Avasarala just trying to cut Marco's balls off nonstop. So
yeah.
And then you have the Secretary General, the new Secretary General come in. Yeah, and he looks just so underqualified and so overwhelmed.
Lost in the sauce.
It wasn't he like the transportation? What was it? What was his job?
Yeah, he was like the transportation secretary or something. Yeah, he definitely comes in with a deer in the headlights. He's got a deer in the headlights kind of look to him.
And that's how you know. I mean, there's a tragedy underneath that, because when you see how far down they had to go, you realize how many people in the government were killed.
Yeah.
During that attack.
Yeah.
And he, has that moment of talking about New York and seeing Manhattan underwater. And so, but there's humor, but then there's tragedy underneath it. Because you're like, this guy's like, do you know how I got here?
Yeah. And, chalk some of that up to, I mean, he does have that deer in the headlights look to him, but, a great performance from that actor. Give the guy some credit. It is tough to play a person who's out of their depth, but is fronting like they're going to figure it out. Like that's a tricky and subtle thing to play. So, I actually really like this performance because he's putting on a bold face, and it's, when you're acting, there's so many layers to, like, I really feel like I'm totally out of place. I'm very insecure, but I'm putting on a bold face on top of that. You have to perform all of that. You have to perform all of those layers. That's not easy to do.
Oh, yeah. Because prior to the episode, as one does, you do a lot of research and whatnot, and you obviously read through the script a bunch of times and whatnot, see where you kind of fit in. And it's so interesting seeing some of this stuff when it comes to life. It's like some of it is exactly what you're expecting, and other times it's like total opposite of, like, it's like, this is so much better than I anticipated. Like I said, every department puts so much effort into this, and I think that obviously the actors should and have as well.
I mean, we did definitely have a few people who very quickly you realize they're just sort of phoning it in. Our show did a good job of quickly moving those people out of the system. That, like, everybody else was so committed to the project that if it became clear that there was the odd individual who was just phoning it in, they tended not to hang around long. So yeah, we wound up with a very committed crew.
Who are Holden and Bull chasing in this episode? They're getting ready to fire up, and Monica wanted to come along. She has that great line. He's like,
yeah, Bull was
like, have you ever experienced zero G? And she's like, yeah, on this ship when we were the first people to cross the ring.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's one of the things we love about Monica, is that she is, in the tropey version of this, she's the hapless damsel who's only there to be kidnapped and captured. And she does get, she does get kidnapped early in the season. But, like, her only thing is to be screeching when the bad guys are shooting at you. Yeah, like, and she's so not that. She's not written that way. And Anna Hopkins, who plays her, is so not that girl, that this toughness and in your face kind of attitude that she just naturally radiates.
She's scary.
Yeah, she is scary. And Bull, he's a tough guy. He's a former Marine sergeant. He's got that sort of, like, big dick energy to him, and he's, like, in your face. And Anna, who's like a tiny little person, doesn't back down an inch. She's stepping into him. She's like, you think you're going to run me off by intimidating me? Well, motherfucker, look what I did. And what I love about the interplay between the two of them is you can tell by the way he plays the part. Bull's kind of impressed by that. He's kind of laughing, like, yeah, I mean, all right, give you that one.
As an actor, having that, somebody who provides that conflict as well, makes your job also a lot easier, because, like, it's like then you have something to play off of, right? Yeah. When we're talking, like, left hand and right hand and whatnot in acting, like, when you have somebody who plays a lot more on the right hand and plays to their dreams, their wants, and aren't afraid to do what it takes to get to those things, it's much more interesting than watching somebody who's going to cave and just go, like, yes, sure, and it always comes to that, right? Whether it be a scene where it's just, a smaller argument or something like that, or when it comes to, like, life and death, like, it's, you fight, right? And it makes the other person's job a lot easier. And watching her scenes were just fantastic.
Well, they're chasing after that ship that has the protomolecule on it, to answer your question, Wes.
What's the name of the ship? Chesamoka? Chesamoka?
No. That one
Chimichanga?
No, it's the
Montezuma's
it's the
Revenge?
word for snake. It's shit.
Pliskin?
I forget. Yeah, they're chasing the Pliskin.
Dude, wouldn't that have been a great name for a ship, the Pliskin?
Oh no, it's the Zamea. The Zamea.
The Zamea. That's what I said in the beginning. I said the Zamea.
No, you said the Chetsmoka.
I meant Zamea. We get a little Bobby Draper suit action in this. They get boarded by some belters. You know, that was a nice little adrenaline injected in their storyline.
Yep.
You want to walk us through what happens in that scene?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love to write scenes where Bobby fucks people up. That is my favorite scene to write. And so that moment where, you know, that clip that people always play online where it's just like that voice going, in that moment, he knew he fucked up. It's that moment where the guy, you know, they're trying to board the Razorback, these belters who have disabled the ship. And this is a thing that I've had to explain a few times. People ask about, why did they bother trying to board the Razorback? The Razorback is like a Lamborghini, right? It's like an incredibly expensive racing ship. These are some belter scavengers. Of course you're going to try to steal the Lamborghini. Of course you are, right? So they've disabled the ship. They think it's powerless. They're going to go over there. They're going to kill the crew. Then they're going to have a Lamborghini, which is awesome because they could like keep it or sell it or whatever. So they're trying to get in. He pries the door open, and then all he sees coming through that door is Bobby Draper's fist and a 6-barrel Gatling gun. And he has a brief moment there to realize he fucked up. And then here comes Bobby and just wrecks her way across that docking bridge, taking out the rest of them.
She just fucks him up. I like the Captain America moment where she's like holding the ship and then holding and she's like, ah! You know, like keeping it together before they blast off. And then she has this smile on her face, you know, like this is what I was put on this earth to do, is kill these motherfuckers in this suit. And that's like, you know, that's when she's at her best and she's free.
And I really like her new all black suit, you know, because, you know, she had the one with the Martian red colors on it before when she was still in the Marines. And then she gets this black market suit that she buys at the beginning of the season. And this is, you know, we finally get to see her using it. And that all black suit, I think, looks great. It's a great moment of her fucking shit up.
So we talked a little bit about Amos and Peaches, and this is a episode that really illuminates the relationship a lot, and we get into a bit of their relationship and why they work well together. And Amos has that moment where he talks about his philosophy, the tribe of two, and explaining to her, listen, when it's the end times like this, everybody breaks down the tribes. Right now, we're a tribe of two, meaning it's about us surviving, and we're going to have to do whatever it takes to survive. And they run into a guy on the trail, and he explains to them about this doomsday guy down the way in a cabin. And Amos knows if he's a doomsday guy, he's probably got a lot of supplies, and we don't have any. And we got to do the math on this real quick. This guy's got to go. Now, my question to you is, because I've thought about this, especially when we were getting ready to do the, in preparation for the thing, I thought about this a lot, like what I would do personally. And the reality is that if we were individual, like if you were on your own, that's a different situation than if you had your kid with you or a wife with you.
Yeah.
You know, and if I had my wife or my kid or a kid or kids or whatever with me, I'm going to kill that guy. and you know, it doesn't hurt that you made the guy an asshole, but what if it was a nice guy? The thing is, I think that would have been an interesting scene if that guy came out and he was a nice guy. Like, what if he was like, hey guys, I'm sorry, you know, I wish I could help you, but I can't. I'm not going to give you anything, you know, so you know, happy trails, be good on your way. You know, that would add, you know, him being an asshole made it easy. He was almost sadistic. He made me, you know, strip naked in the cold. And so then it was like, that's an easy answer to kill that guy and you don't feel bad about it. Like, how complicated would it have been if he was a nice guy?
Well, I mean, I certainly would have complicated things emotionally for Clarissa. I don't know if it would have complicated things for Amos, because Amos has a very sort of two-dimensional view of that kind of morality. I think Clarissa would have had a much harder time with it. At the same time, though, I don't think a ton of really nice, generous, welcoming people become doomsday preppers. I think that's kind of a self-selecting group.
Not true. I know some doomsday preppers that are really sweet people.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Wilex, if you were out there,
yes,
by yourself, well, I don't know, like or do you have a partner?
No.
Okay. All right. You're out there with your mother.
Sure. Yes.
You're out there with your mom. What would you do in that situation?
Easily the other person's gone.
All right, I like the decisiveness.
It's
you sociopath.
it's one of those things
this was a test. Ty and I believe in life.
Damn it!
And we were just trying to smoke you out.
I had no idea Wilex was such a cold motherfucker. I had no idea. He comes across so nice.
Yeah. Hey, Wilex, since you're a singer, we have this thing on the show. Will you sing Cold Blooded for us?
I don't even know that song. Give me
No. It's just so whenever somebody does something cold blooded, we go
cold-blooded?
blooded.
Cold-blooded.
Wow, he's better than you, man.
Well, I can't fucking sing, of course. Anybody would be better than me. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
You might get into our
hey, Joseph,
musical version of the Expanse?
Joseph, you should hang on to that audio clip so we can play it at appropriate times.
Oh, we'll put it on your soundboard.
Ty, what would you do in that situation?
Like if it was me and Janae?
And Janae,
and this guy had,
and you're freezing,
and this guy has supplies.
It was nice doomsday guy. Like he's not going to give you anything, but he's not going to make you get naked.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of factors. The first factor is, do I believe that I can get close enough to disarm this guy without killing him?
I'll give you the hypothetical because Amos made the decision before he hopped the gate. He's like, I'm taking this guy out. He made the decision.
Yeah.
So you don't know who this guy is or what's going on inside. It's just a guy inside. You and Janae are freezing out in the snow, and it's the end of the times. What do you do?
Look, I'm getting in that house next to that fire and getting some food. Now, if the guy wants to come with us and hang out with us and share the fire and the food, I'm fine with that. He can hang with us. That's totally cool. It's his stuff, you know. If he insists that I cannot go in there and share that fire and that food, I'm going in. Like,
that guy's a dog.
I mean, yeah.
But what would be your strategy? So for me, I would have to think about it and say, okay, that guy's in that warm house and he's got that warm food. If I try to make an effort to get to know him and see which side of the fence he falls, then I tip him off to what's going down, right? So I might say, hey, can we come in and get warm and eat your food? And he says no. And I'm like, fuck. Now he knows I'm out there. Now he knows I'm going to kill him, whatever. I would have to weigh it of like, I'm going to have to just stealthily kill this guy to come get some of his warm food and fire.
I'm not a planner, and I'm an improviser. So I would be like, I need to figure out a way to get in there, and then I would hope that in the moment, the strategy would come to mind that allows me to improvise. But,
so you would knock on the door. You would go knock on the door, and he comes out and he says, "Go away, or I'll shoot you." What do you do now?
Well, so again, there's so many hypotheticals here. Is Janae as fucked up?
You know what I love about Wilex? He was like, I didn't even get the question out of my mouth.
He's already ready to murder that dude.
Dead. He was like, I'll fucking kill him. I'll kill him right now. Where is he?
So part of what I have to weigh here is Janae is incredibly empathetic. And if I just stone murder a dude without even giving him a chance when she can see it, I think that's going to take some explaining. I think that's going to be tough to explain.
She would be mad. Last time you murdered somebody, she was like really upset about it.
She gets super mad every time I murder somebody.
But she didn't tell the cops. She didn't sell you out.
Well, she doesn't want to get murdered, so.
That's why Wilex doesn't have a partner right now.
Yeah. Oh God.
It's complicated. It's a complicated question with a lot of different variables.
Yeah. That's the great thing about this show is you always learn something new about, like, we had no idea that Wilex was a sociopathic killer until we had him on this thing. And it's like,
well, I did say that I relate to Amos, but I think that it depends. It also depends on what kind of scenario it is.
Oh, come on, Wilex, don't try to don't retreat. Don't retreat and change your answer. All right, we're not judging here. There's no judgment here. All right.
I think that if it was in that, I would say that, maybe you try, but you have to come in with a plan.
Yeah, too late.
You can't, I don't think, but if it was like an apocalypse situation that's more akin to like something of the zombie genre or something like that. It's
okay. What if the survivalist is an 8-year-old girl with a gun? You still kill her?
No, I would overpower her.
But she has a gun, though.
I would sneak behind her.
A gun's really powerful.
See, kids change it for me because if it's a human, if it's a adult male, I have you're going out. But if it's like
and I'd like to add it's if it's those particular guys that I saw, not like
Wilex, you're changing. Look, the lizard brain answered the question, and now your analytical brain's kicking in. Just
like,
stay with that.
He's just backpedaling
now. All right, so then Peaches explains the poem.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly, the poem is, "I have killed, but I'm not a killer." Because a killer is a monster, and a monster is never afraid, right?
Monsters are not afraid. Yeah, that is a little limerick that Daniel Abraham, my writing partner, wrote many years ago when we wrote that book, and it was based on something he had read in a book about a prisoner who was writing poetry and was sort of exploring their the bad choices they had made in their life and what that meant about them, and exploring it through poetry. And I don't know if he borrowed some or all of that particular poem from that book. I'm guessing that he didn't borrow it. I'm guessing he wrote his own version of it. But that idea that you're in prison specifically for horrific crimes like murder, and you have lots of time to explore your life. You have lots of time to think about who and what you are and how you got to the place that you're in and what that says about you. And using this poetry to sort of examine that, I always found it really compelling. I thought it was such a good idea when Daniel came up with it, and I'm glad that Narain agreed and we put it in the show, because I love the idea of Clarissa in prison looking back at her life and saying, I've done these things. What does that mean about me? What am I? What does this say about what I am? And having found this place where she can say, I have committed terrible crimes, so I am a criminal, but I don't think I'm a monster. And the reason I'm not a monster is because of this. I like that she's gotten to that place, and it really helps, I think, launch her through the rest of this season in finding a way to be this better person that she hopes she could be. And part of that is Amos's conversation with her previously about how bad people can find ways to live like they're good people, even if they're not. And so that combination of Amos's wisdom plus this remembered poem she wrote about who and what she is, I really think is a great launching pad for the rest of this season on Clarissa's story.
Yeah, because when she says, I'm not a monster because monsters aren't afraid, you see it hit Amos.
Yep.
Because, he said to Alex one time, he says, I haven't felt fear since I was 5 years old.
Yep.
But what he worries about the most is being a monster.
Yep.
And, that's when he has that moment of like, I need to get back to my crew.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm getting a little out of hand. I'm getting, and the monster is in me, and it's alive and well. And she's not a monster. It reminds me, have you ever read that book, Killers Under the Flower Moon?
No.
And it's about the Osage Indian. Oh my God. It is, I think Scorsese's, he made it into a movie with DiCaprio. It's coming out next year.
Oh shit.
Just premiered. But the book is so powerful. And I won't tell so much of the story, but it's about this Osage tribe in Oklahoma who has been kicked off their land, and so they got this. They ended up getting this parcel of land in Oklahoma that everybody thought was worthless. Well, it turned out that there's a ton of oil underneath it, and so they started. And this was in the 1920s, and so they started systematically being killed. But as as the investigation unfolds, I mean, it's a deep mystery of what's happening, and as it unfolds, and I won't give too much away, but there's one guy in the center of it. And what this poem made me think of is there's one guy in the center of this killing, and he is orchestrating and manipulating all these other people to do the killing for him. So he is the version of the monster, and he's getting people to kill that are the versions of the killers, but not monsters.
Right.
And it's really interesting because if you can get the momentum of greed but fear for their own lives, or if you can get that just right, you can make anybody's capable of anything.
Yep.
And this guy was orchestrating all this and doing these horrible, break your heart things for money and power. And it just made me think of that book. But if you haven't read it, Ty, it sounds really
so
well done, so well written. Okay, Wilex, we like to do this thing called the top 5. And would you like to hang out with us and do this thing top 5? And basically, our lovely Patreon members will give us we usually take a topic or a theme that is inspired by the episode we just watched, and then they bring up a topic, and then we do the top 5 movies that fit best within that topic, our favorite top things, and that top 5 goes down as the most important top 5 list within movie history.
Yep.
So it's a lot of responsibility.
It goes into the Library of Congress as the official top 5.
The Library of Congress. So don't fuck up, okay? We take it very seriously. All right, what is it, Joseph? The best deal with the devil?
Yep.
The best deal with the devil. Wilex, you do voiceover work, right?
Yes.
So will you read this in your favorite character that you do?
In my favorite character that I do? How do you mean,
do you do voiceover characters? Like, do you do like characters?
Yeah, I can. Are you talking about an existing character or just
your favorite character that you like to do? This is what people that have voice experience. We always get them to read the things in their favorite characters.
Cool. Maybe I'll start off with a little bit of
That's great.
Angel Heart. Bedazzled. Is it Constantine?
Yep, Constantine. Yeah.
All right. Death Becomes Her. Dorian Gray. Ghost Rider. Legend. Needful Things. Phantom of the Opera. Pick of Destiny. Silence of the Lambs. Something Wicked This Way Comes. Spawn. The Devil's Advocate. The Matrix. The Prophecy. The Witch.
All right. Thanks, Wilex.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Thank you so much. That was fun. All right. So I'm struck by Needful Things, but I'm more struck by the book than the movie. I feel like I really enjoyed the book better. Yep. But Something Wicked This Way Comes is one of my favorites. And it is a did you see that? I read the book. I think it's is it Ray Bradbury?
It is. Yeah, Ray Bradbury.
I remember that. I remember reading that book and just loving it. And then there was in the 80s there was the movie came out that was really, really well done. Do you remember that movie, Ty?
I do. Yeah, as a kid, I wasn't like a little kid, but I found that movie fascinating, and I had to sneak to watch it because my super religious parents thought it was evil. So, it was fun for 2 reasons. By the way,
Wilex, Ty was in a cult.
I was
it's a sex cult.
A sex cult.
Of course. The only cult.
Wilex, are you for the only cult worth joining?
Yeah.
Hey,
why join a non-sex cult?
Yeah. No, I haven't seen something. I've seen a couple of these. I've seen now I'm kind of like stuck in this Kermit voice for a while. I've seen Phantom of the Opera, obviously, Silence of the Lambs. Depending on which Spawn we're talking about, if The Witch is the same thing, the Matrix, obviously. But yeah, I think those are the ones.
So Something Wicked This Way Comes about a circus that comes to town, and it's a really well written book. I mean, every person within that town has a deep regret or something that they wish was different. And so the circus has a way of giving these people, like giving their beauty back and their youth back, or they put them on this merry-go-round and roll the years back. There's all these interesting things, but it's kind of like monkey's paw. It all comes with a curse because it's a deal with the devil. Yeah. And there's these 2 little kids that recognize that there's something evil, something wrong with this circus. Right. And they ended up, having to fight this guy. But I think it's, I think it's in the top 5 for sure. Do you think so, Ty?
I rewatched it recently, and it doesn't hold up quite as well as I remember watching it when I was a kid, but it held up well enough that I still was fascinated by it, still entranced by it. Some of the filmmaking is a little clunky because it's just, it's an older movie and it wasn't made on a super high budget. But the story is just a fascinating story, and there is just this air of creepy threat to everything in that movie that I think is really well done. So I would agree with that. For my pick, I'm going to go with The Witch. I think The Witch was one of the best movies of that year.
Yeah.
I know not everybody agrees with that. I think a lot of people thought it was too slow or whatever, but there is a sense of mounting dread in The Witch that is so hard to pull off in a film, where just every scene feels like a little more dread in it than the scene before. Even when things are happening that are not subjectively scary, it doesn't matter. It's just, there's this growing sense of dread. And it was the first time I had seen Anya Taylor-Joy, who turns out to be an incredible young talent who's been in a ton of shit since then. And it was kind of her breakout role, and I thought she was astonishingly good in it. So yeah, I love
Stunning.
The Witch.
Did you see? Have you seen that director? Any of his other movies?
I saw
one
Midsummer.
that just came out.
Midsummer is the same.
No,
director,
I think
right?
this guy. No, I think the guy that did The Witch is the guy that did The Lighthouse. He just
Oh,
did that,
you're right. He
Viking
did The
movie.
Lighthouse. That's right. You're right. Yep.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
But I can see why it would be why it would be mixed up.
Why you would have that.
Like it's very it's like that sense of like Ty was saying, that sense of dread, right?
Yeah.
I thought I enjoyed The Witch better than Midsommar. But I feel like there is something to his work that is so authentic and so raw and real that it's really kind of fresh and unlike anything I've seen in a while. So I would agree with you, Ty.
Did you know that somebody from
our
our show was in The Witch?
Who?
In season 2 of the show, there's the belter who doesn't want to be scanned for the protomolecule. And then there's the other belters like, let him scan you or I'll space you myself. That guy is the voice of the goat of the devil in The Witch.
Oh, that
really?
That was terrifying.
Oh my God, that was terrifying. And
was Julian Richings, was he in The Witch? Oh, okay. Joseph just said the guy who plays the landlord who won't change his air filters was also in The Witch. That's cool.
What did you think about Angel Heart? Mickey Rourke, Angel Heart. Robert De Niro played Satan.
So I liked Angel Heart. I don't know if I would say it's objectively a great movie. I have a huge crush on Lisa Bonet, so her presence in the film was made me appreciate it. And I think Robert De Niro as the devil was actually quite effective. That there's a scene where he's eating an egg, and they've just been talking about the egg is the symbol of the soul. That is super creepy. It's like an incredibly creepy moment.
Robert De Niro, like some of his smaller or less flashy roles, I think he's as good in Angel Heart as he is in anything. Like Midnight Run, I think he's fantastic in Midnight Run.
Yeah, well, he's just in general a great actor.
Yeah, he's just a phenomenal
actor.
actor.
There are no small parts.
Yeah.
But he's better in some movies than he is in others. And there's some things that you don't typically think of De Niro being a master performance. And there's some things that, that we all know, The Godfather 2 and those things. But he was really good in Angel Heart. Very scary. But I understand. I agree with you. I don't know if that should be on the top 5. I'm a big fan of Legend. Young Tom Cruise, long hair.
Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott, cracking open his visual filmmaking playbook and just making every frame of Legend looks like a painting, like a fantasy painting. It's beautiful to look at.
What's his name? Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry. This was before It, and it was like Tim Curry really flexing his makeup muscles, and he's just one of the great makeup actors.
Tim Curry as Darkness is the reason that you watch that movie. Tom Cruise is fine. Mia Sara, of course, is beautiful. She's great in everything, I think. The little forest folk are kind of weird.
Black as night, black as this.
Black
is your heart.
I love Blix. Blix the Goblin is fantastic, and I can do that speech from heart.
Let's hear it.
Black as night, black as pitch, blacker than the foulest witch. Oh yeah, I fucking love Blix.
Yeah, I love Blix.
But Tim Curry as Darkness, he's so threatening and so powerful in every scene that he's in. and just chewing the scenery in the best possible way that an actor can chew some scenery. And just so terrifying in how powerful he is when he's fighting with Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise is dancing all over the place trying to sword fight with him, and Darkness pins him to the wall and says, "Every wolf has fleas, 'tis easy enough to scratch." You're just like, well, Tom Cruise is fucked. You can't fight that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this was before, Maverick or any of that stuff. So you're like, yeah, Tom Cruise is fucking done. But what I thought, Ridley Scott was firing on all cylinders because it's really interesting. They went the traditional look of the devil with the big horns and being red with the hoofs and everything. But it's so stunning and visually how he fills up the screen, when he's walking and this robe is blowing in the wind, and it's and Ridley Scott visually is one of the greatest directors of all time, and he really, I think Legend's underrated in the sense that you don't hear about it as much when they talk about Ridley Scott and what he accomplished visually with that movie. He created a whole new world.
The reason that it doesn't get a lot of credit is because it's beautiful to look at. As I said, every frame of that movie looks like a fantasy painting. It's beautiful. This story is a little thin. There's not a lot there.
What's just fascinating about the devil is that he's lonely and he's longing for love. And so there's an interesting twist in that thing. And he's pure evil. He's darkness, but he doesn't want to be. And obviously he's evil and he's darkness, so everything he touches, he destroys. Even his love he almost possesses her and destroys her.
Yep.
All right, so that's cool. We got 3.
I would agree that Silence of the Lambs belongs on this list.
I was gonna. That's the one.
Yeah, because it's not a traditional deal with the devil in that they're not actively making a deal with a supernatural evil being. But Hannibal Lecter is so the epitome of evil in Silence of the Lambs, and the way that they keep going back to him because they feel like he's going to help them. They feel like he's going to, help them solve this crime and save this girl. And he keeps offering these little tidbits, just whetting their appetite so that they keep giving him more and more and more latitude, which eventually, of course, leads to his dramatic escape from custody. That is a classic deal with the devil story, where the devil's just going to keep giving you just a little bit more, making you think if you just give him a little more, you're going to get everything you want. And it always, the classic deal with the devil story is that always turns against you. You were talking about the monkey paw. Like you get the wish, but the wish always comes with a curse. And that's what happens in Silence of the Lambs. Hannibal Lecter gives them just enough that they can solve the crime, but that comes with a curse in that he also murders 2 police officers. He escapes from custody, and he winds up in the wind. So I think in every way other than the supernatural, it is a classic deal with the devil story.
Yeah, I think that it's really interesting because he's in that story. He's not a supernatural being, right? He's just a guy who is using his brain to manipulate a situation, and there's something so haunting about him that even though he's just some dude in a cage, it almost feels like there's a monster behind that screen. There's like it's quite terrifying watching Anthony Hopkins politely stare at you.
I would argue that there is a supernatural element within them. There's that naturalistic like Sherlock Holmes, like that supernatural power of reasoning and mental capability, which makes him so much more terrifying. I think about in Manhunter when they visit Brian Cox for the first time, and you realize, oh my God, nobody is intellectually a match for this guy. He sees through every person when they walk through the door, and the range of his reasoning and his logic and his mind you're just so overmatched. And there is a supernatural quality that makes it so much more scary, and the fact that it's in the confines of being a real person makes it that much more scary.
Yeah.
Yep.
Listen, I didn't like the movie Needful Things, but I love the book. And so I know we're talking about the movie, but the story of Needful Things, which is very similar to Something Wicked This Way Comes, which means I probably just love these stories. But I love this. I'm a fool for a small town, and then getting to know the people in the small town and realizing that they have a flaw or something within them that's exploited by a local evil that comes to this town. And Needful Things is a great
I don't think it's a great movie though.
It's not a good movie.
I mean, and
that's why I'm hesitant to vote for it.
It's got some great performances in it.
Ed O'Neill
and Bonnie Bedelia is who's always great. So it's got some good performances in it, but the movie's a little it's not great.
Ed Harris. Sorry.
Yeah, Ed Harris. Yep.
I agree. Did you see Pick of Destiny? I haven't seen that yet.
I love Tenacious D, and I think The Pick of Destiny is a fantastic movie. Dave Grohl as the devil is amazing. I'm very happy to see that movie on the list. I don't think it's probably exactly what we're looking for this top 5, but yeah, it's a great movie. You should check it out.
I guess maybe Constantine. I don't know if there's anything on the list. Is The Matrix a deal with the devil story?
Well, yeah, I think it is. I think it's a deal with the devil in the same sense that Silence of the Lambs is a deal with the devil, in that what Cypher is doing is making a deal with Agent Smith to go back into what he considers the good life that he used to have in the Matrix in exchange for selling out all of his friends.
Right.
So that is. Yeah, I mean, I would consider that a deal with the devil for sure.
Well, then the Matrix wins. I mean, if that's for sure, the Matrix goes on there. I agree with you because there's so many parallels with Neo being the savior.
Yeah.
And being So
yeah. Well, I mean, Cypher is clearly the Judas Iscariot character in that Christ play. Yeah.
Was this list compiled?
Experts.
Who created this
experts?
List?
And an AI that unerringly selects the best lists. Yeah, we have a whole supercomputer lab to compile this list. Yeah,
fantastic.
So you when you leave this podcast, you're going to be smarter than you were before you started the podcast. It's contagious. So you're just going to be like, wow, just see the world more clearer.
Oh, for me, everything helps, I think.
Yeah, but we know he's a sociopath. We're just going to turn him into Hannibal Lecter now.
Yeah. Oh, God. Oh, no.
Well, this has been a good time. Willis, can we get one more cold-blooded before we... Oh, sorry, Joseph. We have to do the comparison of how... Because the Patreon members are the one that did the pool. And then we do a top 5, and then they give us our top 5, and we see how close it is. Oh, so we got 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. That's usually what we get. In the 3 out of 5 range.
The prophecy. I forgot about the prophecy.
Except that, I mean, I do love Viggo Mortensen as the devil, but nobody makes a deal with him. He just shows up and fucks up Gabriel.
Yeah.
I mean, he shows up and and Gabriel's like, haha, you're the devil and I'm making fun of you. And then Viggo Mortensen's like, yeah, but you're being evil and I control evil. And then takes him off to hell. So it doesn't really feel like a deal is struck of any kind.
But they know us well. They got 3 out of 5.
Yeah. Now the Constantine pick, there definitely is a deal that's being struck there. Constantine strikes a deal with Peter Stormare as the devil to defeat Gabriel. And by the way, can I just say, I don't think Constantine's a great movie, but holy shit, how great is Tilda Swinton? Like,
Tilda Swinton is fantastic
in everything. Tilda Swinton has never been bad in anything. Tilda Swinton as the angel Gabriel, that's my favorite part of that movie. Like, if I could just watch a supercut of just her scenes from that movie, I would be fine. That's the parts I need to see.
Because I didn't know where this where this list came from. The movie I was actually going to suggest was Snowpiercer.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you guys have seen that. And so it's Chris Evans is stuck on this train, and all the poor people are living in the back, and they have to rush their way to the front of the train. And at the end, they go like,
"No, I haven't seen it. Don't give it."
Okay, well. Anyways, but Tilda Swinton was fantastic
in that movie. Yeah, and on the topic of deals with the devil and the supernatural and all that stuff, I don't know that it would belong on this list, but it could. It could belong on this list. The remake of Suspiria that they made a few years back that has Tilda Swinton in it. It got a lot of bad press because how dare you remake a Dario Argento film? And I understand that. Like, I hate needless remakes of things. I hate remakes that don't add anything. They're just like let's just reshoot it with modern actors. That drives me nuts. I don't like that. And I think it got a lot of bad press because I think a lot of people thought that's what it was or was going to be. I don't agree. I actually think that the remake added a lot to the story and added interesting stuff to the story. And I thought the performances were quite good. But Tilda Swinton as the leader of the ballet school, who's one of the witches, was just amazingly great. And actually she plays 3 parts in that movie. She also plays the old man, and she's just great in that movie. So this is just me going off for a moment about how much of a Tilda Swinton fan I am.
Well, this has been fun. Thank you guys for hanging out. Please like and subscribe and join us next week. Say goodbye, Ty. Oh, and thank you to our guest, Wilex, for coming out and hanging out with us. Even though
what about poor Wilex here?
Killer.
He passed up the starring role in a James Bond film to do this podcast instead. So
absolutely.
Yeah. It was Idris Elba.
Well, I think because I think Wilex understands that this podcast will give him more of a pop than James Bond.
Yeah. You just made 8 fans for life doing this.
For life.
Yeah.
Yes.
The fans of the show are absolutely amazing, and they've been nothing but sweet. So definitely worth it.
Say goodbye, Ty.
Goodbye, Ty.